Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Saudi Standardized Test of English Proficiency Step. Today in this video, grammar, we'll look at the past tense of the verb to be, specifically was and were, the use of those two verbs in the past tense in sentences and in question form. We'll also give you a couple of quizzes to practice your understanding and application and use of those two verbs. Now, I know in Arabic there is no verb to be as such, or not one that is used. And very often students forget to use the verb, even in this present tense. Present tense forms are is and are and am. And so they have great difficulty using was and were in the past tense. So today for this video, I will show you how to use it, and we will practice and see how you get on in the quizzes. Okay, let's go ahead, shall we? Standardized Test of English Proficiency Step, past simple tense, using was and were. What can you see in the two pictures? On the left, there is a young man. On the right, there is an old man. In fact, this is the same man. The first picture on the left is a picture of when he was young. On the right is a picture of the same man today. Consider the following sentences. In the past, the man was young. Today, he is very old. Before, he was very active. Now he is slow. In his youth, he wasn't unhealthy. These days, he is often sick. The present tense forms of the verb to be are am, is, and are. Am and is and are forms of the verb to be used in the present tense, the simple present tense. They tell us or they describe situations or states that are happening now. For example, I am happy is used with single subject, the single subject being I. He, she is a student, also used with single subject pronouns. You, we, they are at the mall. These are used with plural subjects. The past tense of the verb forms am, is, and are was and were. Was and were are forms of the verb to be used in the simple past tense. They tell us or describe situations or states that happened before now. For example, I, he, she, or it was at home yesterday. Was is used with single subjects. You, we, they, were is used with single and plural. You is used with the single and plural, and we and they only with the plural subjects. Now let's look at some examples of their usage, both in the sentence and the question forms. The forms of was and were. Was and were the past tense of the verb to be. Am and is becomes was, and are becomes were. Here we have the question form, the positive or affirmative use of the verb, and the negative use of the verb. So let's read those, shall we? Question, was I? Answer, yes, I was. No, I wasn't. Question, were you? Answer, yes, you were. No, you weren't. Was he? Yes, he was. No, he wasn't. Was she? Yes, she was. No, she wasn't. Was it? Yes, it was. No, it wasn't. Were you or were we? Yes, we were. No, we weren't. Were they? Yes, they were. No, they weren't. Please remember, the pronunciation of the verb was is with a Z sound. Was, and were tends to be long, not were, but were. And in the negative, wasn't and weren't. Now I want you to pause the video and read with me, practicing the pronunciation of was and were in the following sentences. Number 1. I was very tired after visiting the Masmak Fort last week. 2. You weren't at the wedding last night, were you? 3. He was excited about the football match between Al Hilal and Al Nasr. 4. She wasn't very happy with the results of the Tawjih exam. 5. It was a hot day in Riyadh yesterday. 6. We weren't able to go to the beach because of the rain. 7. They were shopping at the Red Sea Mall when I called them. 8. I wasn't aware of the traffic jam near King Fahd Road. 9. You were really helpful when we organized the charity event last month. 10. He wasn't interested in visiting the empty quarter during the summer. Did you practice reading those sentences with me, pronouncing was and were, and wasn't and weren't? So I want you now to practice reading the following sample sentences of was and were in the question forms. Listen to my pronunciation and try to copy it. Focus, please, on the correct sound of was and were, and wasn't and weren't, and also how the voice goes up and down as we read the question forms. Was I late for the meeting with the project manager? Yes, you were. Were you at the Riyadh season concert last night? No, I wasn't. Was Ali excited about the Camel Festival? Yes, he was. Was Sarah nervous before her driving test? No, she wasn't. Was it hot in Riyadh last weekend? Yes, it was. Were we supposed to visit the museum in Jeddah yesterday? No, we weren't. Were the children happy with the results of the competition? Yes, they were. Was I responsible for organizing the National Day event? No, you weren't. Were you all at the mosque for the Friday prayer? Yes, we were. Was she surprised by the gift her family gave her? Yes, she was. Did you pause the video and practice reading with me? Was and were, wasn't and weren't in the question forms. Now please do the following 2 practice tests. The first test to practice the sentence form and the second test to practice the question form. Standardized test of English proficiency step, the simple past tense, was and were. Practice test A. Choose the correct form of the verbs was and were. Question 1. Please pause the video to answer, then go to the next question. I will give you the answers at the end. Question 2. 3, 4, question 5, 6, question 7, question 8. Please remember there are 15 questions in practice test A. Question 9. 10. Question 11. 12. 13. 14. 'Practice test A. Choose the correct form of was and were the answers. Number 1. The weather in Jeddah was very humid yesterday. 2. The football fans weren't happy when the game in Jeddah was postponed, but the players were relieved because of the rain. 3. The students were happy when the teacher cancelled the test. 4. Fahad was disappointed when his team lost the final match, but his brothers were proud of their effort. 5. We were excited to visit the Riyadh Season Festival last week, or we weren't excited. 6. The students weren't too upset when the school trip to Riyadh Season was cancelled, but the teachers were glad they had more time to prepare. 7. The Red Sea Mall was crowded last Friday night. 8. The cafe wasn't open when we arrived, but the restaurant next door was serving breakfast. 9. My parents were very supportive when I decided to study abroad. They are great. 10. The shopping mall wasn't crowded in the morning, but it was much busier at night. 11. The children were happy when they heard about the trip, but the parents were worried about the cost. 12. The restaurant was open on National Day, but the cafe next door was closed. 13. The football match was intense, but the fans weren't happy with the result. 14. The new Spider-Man film was good. Sorry, a mistake. The new Spider-Man film wasn't good, but some of the special effects were great. 15. Ali and Ahmed weren't present at the meeting, but their manager was there. That's the end of the test. Now try the test using was and were questions. Standardized test of English proficiency, past simple tense using was or were questions, practice quiz B. Please write was or were to complete the questions. Number 1. Please pause the video as you answer, and when you finish, I will give you the answers. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the last question, 10. Now check your answers. Standardized test of English proficiency, past simple tense using was or were questions, practice quiz B, answers. Number 1. Why were you so tired after visiting the Masmak Fort last weekend? I was very tired because I walked a lot. 2. Were you at the wedding last night? No, I wasn't at the wedding. I was at home. 3. Was he excited about the football match between Al Hilal and Al Nasr? Yes, he was excited, very. 4. Was she happy with the results of the Tawjihi exam? No, she wasn't happy with the results. She got an F. 5. Was it a hot day in Riyadh yesterday? Yes, it was a hot day. 40 degrees Celsius. 5. 6. Were you able to go to the beach because of the rain? No, we weren't. We stayed at home instead. 7. Were they shopping at the Red Sea Mall when you called them? Yes, they were there. They bought new clothes. 8. Were you aware of the traffic jam near King Fahd Road? No, I wasn't aware of that. Was it bad? 9. Were you helpful when we organized the charity event last month? Yes, I was really helpful. Everyone was happy with me. 10. Was he interested in visiting the empty quarter during the summer? No, he wasn't interested. It was too hot. That is the end of the quiz. So there we have it. Instruction in the use of the verb to be in English in the past tense. Am, is, and are. Past tense forms was and were, wasn't, and weren't. My name's Mohammed Francis from Britannia Academy. If you'd like more, click more videos or come and join us at the Academy. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.